Welcome to Sacredly Selfish, a space where we flip the script on what it means to choose yourself.
I'm Megan, and together with Raju, we're diving into raw, real conversations that explore self love, boundaries, healing, and what happens when women stop abandoning themselves and start living in alignment.
Because being selfish isn't wrong. When it's sacred, it's revolutionary.
We're so glad you're here. Now, let's get selfish. Welcome back to another episode of Sacredly Selfish. Today, Raju and I wanted to talk about beauty standards, more specifically, plastic surgery, Botox, filler, that form of beauty. If we have done plastic surgery or Botox and filler, we want to have a real, raw, honest conversation with you guys about it, where we were in our 20s compared to now in our 30s, almost 40s. Also, this is a judgment free zone. So whether you do have plastic surgery or you do have Botox and filler, this isn't a reprimand. This isn't to make you feel shameful. This is just our opinions, how we've thought about it, how we've come to our own conclusions. And we truly believe if that is something that you love, if you love to have that look of like glass skin and firm, beautiful, and that feels beautiful for you, by all means, do that. We're not here to put blame on anyone or shame on anyone. This is just an open, raw conversation on our growth and our journey when it comes to beauty standards, specifically with plastic surgery and Botox and filler.
Yeah, and I think you guys will notice as you listen to this episode that Megan and I both we've come a long ways when it comes to plastic surgery, filler, Botox, all of those standards that others may have made it seem like were the gold standard of how you should look. We've come a long ways from that. And between her and my opinions as well, too, mine differ a bit from her. And I think it's okay to have your different viewpoints and your preferences, but it's important to know if that's coming from an empowered place or versus trying to control or um, almost like prevent yourself from aging, which is a part of life, right? Great disclaimer, Megan. I think it's really important to highlight that because whatever you choose to do, if it's coming from a deep down empowered place, we totally think that's okay and we support that. And we're not here to judge or shame anybody for their decisions that they make. We just want to share our perspective on how beauty standards affected our lives personally and just our opinions and our growth throughout the years. And now that we're, in our later 30s and I'm approaching 40, we have different opinions about aging and the way we look and the modifications we're making to our body. That being said, we both would like to start off with if there is any types of plastic surgeries or procedures that we have had done personally. I am open to discuss it and let you guys know exactly what I have had done. And I did have a breast augmentation. It's been 10 years now. And that was a decision I made back in my late 20s. I think I was 28 years old when I had it done. It wasn't a thought out decision that I made. It was more so just kind of something that I felt like I should do because I didn't like the way my chest looked. I didn't like the way, when I wore clothes, I was always very small chested. I just didn't like the way I looked. But I think a lot of it stemmed not only from how I didn't like how I looked because I think it's different if you're feeling like, I want to make these changes. I think it will make me feel better if I have this surgery to fix this, and it's going to just make me even feel more empowered in myself having this done. I was doing it more so for the approval of others and how my body looked to people on the outside, not myself. I remember I went in for my consultation and one of my girlfriends had seen this surgeon already and hers looked amazing, and it was also the group of friends I was hanging out with back then as well too. Everything was very superficial. It was all materialistic, what kind of designer bags you had, how thin you were, how you looked. Like think of 2014, 2015, how the Kardashian era was and how everybody was so all about the way your body was and how you looked and what designer bags you carried, what vehicle you drove. Like everything was very materialistic. And the group of friends I hung out with were extremely materialistic. So for me, I always felt like because there's still this very small town girl in me, and I never felt good enough and worthy enough to be around these big city girls that I had met through my marriage. So I started changing things in myself to please people on the outside rather than really feeling what was true to me on the inside. And I didn't know then. I was very disconnected. We've discussed this in previous episodes. I was very disconnected from who I was, what I wanted in life. I was just kind of following and going along with what everybody else said was the perfect standard. So I went ahead, I had the implants done, and guess what? The very second day I had them done, my sister came down to help take care of me. And I remember thinking, what the fuck did I do? And now, when I reflect back on the misery I felt, and it wasn't even just pain related, now that have deepened into myself and able to understand where those emotions were coming from. At the time, I thought it was because it just hurt so bad. And I was like, what did I do to myself? But realistically, thinking back, that was more of my inside screaming to me saying, girl, you shouldn't have altered your body because you want other people to approve of how it looks or you want, yourself to look a certain way in pictures. Just reflecting back on that makes me feel so sad for that 28-year-old Raju because I'm like, I can't believe I did that. And my body was screaming no. That right after surgery, I remember I was vomiting. Like I was vomiting so much on the drive back home. I've had anesthesia in the past for other medical procedures needed for health reasons, and I've never vomited from it. But after having my breast done, I was vomiting. My body was saying, what did you do to me? What did you put inside of me? All these things were going on. And reflecting back to almost a year later, I severely hurt my shoulder at work. And I think about that, all my problems started happening over the years after I had my breast implants inserted. So, listening to your body when your body's saying it's not a good choice and going against it can be so damaging. And I think you don't really realize that till you're later, into your journey or you're really in tune more with how your feelings are. That was my experience with breast implants. I've also had lip fillers and I started getting them around the same time I got breast implants, obviously for the same reasons I just explained. I did lip fillers and I have done Botox once and I did Botox in 2024 after it was about a year postpartum after Giona was born. And that's because I just wanted to try it. I want to see how it looks. It wasn't coming from any place of like, I feel like I've aged or any of that. I think I look amazing for turning 40 this year. It was coming from a place where I was curious how I would look with Botox, but I can dive into that in a little bit here.
Were your other friends also doing filler and Botox, or did you feel like their approval? Like when you got the breast implants and when you started getting Botox and filler, did you get those reflections back like, "Oh my god, you look so good," and "Oh my gosh, your boobs like fit your body," and all of that? Like was there that end of the pendulum of everyone is supporting this decision, whereas your body was telling you, "Oh god, what have you done?" And so then you're just ignoring that part of yourself?
Definitely. Everybody was so like, "Oh my god, Raju, you look amazing." It's so funny because they would say it matches your curves so perfectly now having bigger breasts, but when I look back, I was not even a curvy girl. I was so tiny. I'm more curvier now, but I was definitely not, and even now, like I'm not super curvy, but back then I was so tiny. Like I'm talking 110 pounds, and I have these massive breasts on me that just did not even match my body, but my gosh, it boosted my confidence. I could now go braless, right? Whereas before with my natural breasts, I was not able to go braless. And it just boosted my confidence from having that external validation from everybody else versus what internally I was so disconnected from. And I didn't realize the disconnect, obviously, till like over the last few years. Now that I've been able to really reflect on the different procedures I have done and how I kind of view having those procedures done.
Thank you for being very candid about everything that you've experienced and what you've done. And I'm also here to say that I have breast implants as well. In 2012, I got a breast augmentation. I didn't have like any breast tissue. I was extremely flat chested, like I'm talking double A. And I know growing up and being surrounded by so many other girls my age, like 16 years old, having really big full breasts. And I felt like I was very boyish. And not that anyone made fun of me, it was more of a looking at everybody else and comparing what my body looked like compared to theirs. And I was heavily into sports, always in some sort of activity, which is beneficial for not having breasts also. So, but at the time when you're 16, 17, and you're looking at everyone else and you're growing into this woman, but your body is not reflecting that. It's like you don't have that womanly shape. My body itself, gaining weight, losing weight, like that was all prevalent in my teens. And everyone kept saying, when you get a growth spurt, everything will even out. It'll all be good. And just those comments on my body, I was a child, right? And that sticks with you. And so listening to all these other people comment on my body, and then there was a moment that someone very close to me, which I imagine it was just a flippant comment and they didn't mean anything by it, to the extent that I took it. But someone had commented and said, I don't know how you're going to get a husband when you have such a flat chest like that. And that stuck with me for the longest time, for years before it was actually one of the main factors on me wanting to get breast implants. It was, oh my God, I'm not going to get a husband because I don't have a womanly body. And my perception of life at that time was to be a good girl, to, yeah, go to college. But at the end of the day, you're going to get married, you're going to have a family. That is your job in life. So to have someone comment that I wouldn't even be able to get a husband because of the way my body looked really activated something inside of me. So that stuck with me. And as the years went on, I had the conversation with my parents because I was still quite young. 22 was really young in my opinion, and to have wanted to have implants since I was like 16, and I would always talk about it with my sisters, with everyone. And I want to also preface this by saying the times that we grew up, breast implants were on the rise. They were just it felt like it was fresh and new, even though it had been done before, but it was more out in the open because social media just started to happen, like a little bit of internet. But then you talk to other women and be like, oh yeah, I got breast implants. Oh yeah, this aunt got breast implants. This person has implants. So everywhere you looked, everyone was altering their body. And it was like, this is like the coming of age time in which it was acceptable a little bit, I find, to do these enhancements, not to what it is now. Now it's on steroids. Like getting all this work done is like on another level. But to come from that, okay, like, oh, she's doing it and she's doing it. So then I felt very comfortable asking my mom and then having to talk to my dad about it because obviously I'm going for major surgery and then having to pay for it. I didn't have the visceral experience that you had, Raju, in that my body rejected the implants. I felt relief. I felt like,
Right.
oh my God, my purpose in life is restored because now I have breasts.
You didn't have that visceral experience like I had immediately after I had them done. However, if you're comfortable, you can share about your recovery from the breast implants as well too, if you feel comfortable sharing that.
My recovery after my implants were put in, I actually was good to go. Like I didn't have any sort of like, yes, there was like tightness and yes, there was like pressure because your skin is stretching so much. And I will say I got heavy implants. I got 400 on one side and 450 cc's on the other. And that was like so much at that time. I didn't understand it, but my body's reaction to not agreeing with the implants was my scarring. Now, everyone likes to say with Indian skin, you get that keloid hypotrophic, I think it's called hypotrophic scarring, and it's more prevalent in all these things.
I
Which
didn't get
now
it.
I know is just my body rejecting it because my scars were absolutely hideous. They were stretched, they were thick, they were spreading across my chest. I looked like Frankenstein. And so I think people don't talk about that enough. that, yeah, a lot of women don't have an issue, but there are so many women that do have an issue and no one talks about it because you know what? You've got these implants because you wanted to be prettier, you wanted to be accepted, you wanted to feel sexy, and then there's an ugly side to it. I hated the scars. I absolutely hated the scars. They didn't look pretty at all, but I was like, you know what? It's okay because I've got big boobs now. And it was also like, finally, my chest is bigger than my tummy and I'm gonna look skinnier and like all these other external fucking things. And which is so fucking stupid now that I think about it. But I was a little girl and I have so much grace and so much love for that little girl because she did not know. And she also didn't know that her body could change and evolve and I could possibly get bigger breasts. I know people say it stops, but that's not, I know that not to be true now. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I've got these big boobs now. Yes, the scarring's bad, but it doesn't matter because no one else is going to really see that other than like a partner if I get married and like all the things. But that was like having to have another conversation with someone. I remember having to have that conversation with my now ex husband of, okay, I've got breast implants and I have really horrible scars. And I've never been shamed by a man ever for having scars or anything like that. No man has ever made me feel bad or ugly for how my breasts had looked. But I felt so insecure with it that I actually went in. So I had my surgery when I was 22 and then I actually went in when I was 28 to get a scar revision and a lift. So I went for surgery number 2. Because again, at that time, it was more about how I felt about it because I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't look in the mirror. I couldn't even look at my body.
It's so interesting how you went in to have this surgery done so you could have bigger boobs, so you could potentially meet your husband because it makes you more worthy. But the sad truth is, even after having them done, you still were not happy with your body.
No, I was not happy at all. And it was like, okay, yes, they're bigger and then my stomach looks smaller, but then there is that, okay, but now I have to talk to this person that I'm going to now have to share my vulnerability with, my fears. And there's a possibility, say we're getting into a fight and then he throws it in my face. Well, you've got ugly tits or like you've destroyed your body. And like all these things are running in my head. That didn't happen. But like in my head was like running amok because I was like, okay, I changed a body where there was nothing wrong with it. Sorry, there was nothing wrong with my body before. And I made up all these stories about not being good enough, not being chosen, not being enough for someone to choose me. And that was all a lie because at the end of the day, I still got married. I still did all that stuff with big boobs. And what happened? I ended up getting divorced anyways. And I got on a whole new trajectory. And it's like life throws all these things at you, and what you think you need and want when you're in your 20s and what you think is acceptable is actually not the truth. Because you're walking through this world with all this conditioning behind you, how that one comment made me think that, oh my God, I'm not going to get the life of my dreams because I don't have this one thing or my body doesn't look like this. And what ended up happening, it fucking blew up anyways. Like what did my body that I curated at the time didn't help me. All the negative, bad things that I already thought about myself didn't go away when I got the implants. And so when I was 28, I got that scar revision and I got a lift, hoping that it would get better, hoping that the scarring would go away. And yes, it did get a little bit better, but what do you know? It fucking came back. And again, it started traveling onto my chest. And so it's like, okay, there was surgery number 2. That's like what now? $1,000 I've already spent on looking a certain way. Are you kidding me right now? And let's think about that as a 20 something year old girl, 22 and 28, I'm spending up to $22,000 to $24,000 to change my body when there was nothing wrong with it to begin with. I listen to the outside world, I listen to the hate inside of my body, and I'm spending all this money on unnecessary things. That $22,000 to $24,000 could have gone into a down payment on a home or something. that could be more useful at the time. Now, I'm not judging myself for doing it because I really did need to go through all of that to get to where I am now. And I really did have to feel into, okay, what does it mean to have implants? I wasn't going to share this anyways before, but now, Roger, I feel like it's prevalent to actually share the after part of it all. I did say, I think in one of the episodes that I had surgery this past December, and I actually decided to get an explant. And I will definitely do an episode on that, a deep dive on that. But it's like I can now see where I went wrong and where all the fears came from and how whole and complete I feel. I will never get back the body that I had at 21, 22 before I got the implants, but I am so happy now having these toxic bags outside of my chest because honestly, let's be real, I was very sick from it. I was very, very sick, and people are living with breast implant illness, and maybe there's some doctors that don't believe in it, but it is a thing. I am attest to that. A lot of my symptoms have gone away. Everything has gotten better, but it's just this idea that we need to change who we are for other people to like us. And like Raju, as you're saying, you got the Botox and the filler, and you were still in your 20s. You were still a baby at that time. What is there to nip and tuck? I've never done a Botox or filler. But I did think about getting filler in my lips because that started becoming very prevalent. Everyone was getting it, and everyone would say every time I smiled that my upper lip would disappear. And I was just like, okay, maybe I should get this. And all my cousins were doing Botox. And I was like, maybe I should get Botox because I have that. I don't even know what it's called, that 11 line. Yeah, I see. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not up to date on that. I was just more concerned about my breasts than anything else. What a privilege it is to grow older. And here we are as a society wanting to freeze our face in time, to be perfect, to be flawless at every turn as we grow older. And there are so many people out there who do not have the luxury of growing older, who pass away, who don't get to live life fully. So your wrinkles, your hands getting older, your chest getting older, your chest from breastfeeding, maybe it's sagging more. What a privilege you're able to breastfeed your children. There are so many people out there who are not able to do that. And it's just, we're all going back to the aesthetic of it all. And don't get me wrong, there are some people out there who maybe one boob is way bigger than the other. I don't know what it's called in medical terms, but I know there are some women that have like one breast that's really big and one that's really small, and they kind of have to even it out because clothes and bras and stuff, like it doesn't match. And I'm not judging anyone for getting breast implants or whatever feels right and good for them. I just wanted to really be vulnerable on where I came from and how comments have really shaped how I've grown, and now coming back home to my body and what's actually good and right for my body, and the fact that I never needed to change it. And this is a thing where I know that it wasn't something that I fully embodied inside of me, is the fact that I was doing it for other people. I felt unworthy, I felt ugly, and I wanted to improve something to be better. That's where I knew it wasn't from a whole, grounded, aligned place.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, because I think I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think there's a large percentage of us women that are coming from that place of not feeling beautiful, not feeling worthy, doing it for everybody else except for ourselves and what truly feels the right choice for ourselves. I think so many of us do that. And as women, our bodies are always evolving and changing. After I had kids, my body does not look the same as what it looked before. And everyone always told me, you're going to get your breast implants, just redo them after you have your kids. And I was like, yeah, that's probably what I'll just do. I'll redo them after I have my kids. After I had my kids is when I really was like, I don't even want these anymore. They're absolutely horrendous on my body. I am such a small framed woman that having these massive breasts are not balancing me out at all, and they just don't feel like who I truly am. And even when we talk about fillers and we talk about the privilege of aging, I, for myself, firsthand, with my husband passing away, know that being able to wake up in the morning and live another life is a fucking privilege. And the fact that we are trying to freeze our faces in time to not show the life, the love, the grief, everything we have lived is where I stand kind of on the side of, I don't think I want to try the Botox. Now, like I said, mine and Megan's opinions are very different when it comes to this because I'm not 100% against it. There is a part of me, because of being in healthcare, I think of what actually Botox is. It's a neurotoxin, right? And how it can go into your brain. And I'm worried about the long-term effects that Botox is going to have down the road, especially with dementia, Alzheimer's, and all of that. I'm not going to go deep diving into the science of all of this. So that part of me still worries me that if I decide to have Botox, what effects is that going to have on me down the road? Also, I've seen so many people that have had side effects where their facial drooping, their because you're essentially like you're making your muscle like relax so it can no longer have movement to it. You're freezing that muscle from moving so it doesn't create the wrinkles on your face. And just seeing some people's horror stories from Botox has made me kind of like step away and said, okay, where is this coming from? Am I actually wanting it because I like the way it looks? Of course, I love the way those 3 months I had the Botox, that one time I did it, I loved how my makeup sat on my face. But realistically, Raju, you barely wear makeup. You're maybe going to do a full face once every couple of months, if even that. Like, so where is that actually coming from? And I think that's the most important part where women need to dive deep into what is the reasoning you're wanting this? Why are you not wanting to age? What are you afraid of that you're wanting to change and alter all these things on your body? Is it because you don't want to get old? Is it because whenever you open up the internet, you're constantly seeing these women frozen in time? Is it because somebody says you being 35, you should look this way, you being 40, you should look this way? And the minute that somebody looks a little bit different, or they have the wrinkles, or they have the movement in their forehead, they're now labeled as, oh, they're aging terribly. Where is that coming from? Or is it coming from a place where I love myself how I look, but I also love it with this enhancement? If I have it or I don't have it, it doesn't matter. I think that's the important key point in deciding whether or not you're actually going to do these procedures from place of love with yourself and not from a place of hating yourself.
Exactly. We were having this conversation before we hit record, and we go onto social media and we see all like these women getting married and like all the makeup artists and all this kind of stuff. And personally, I feel like every woman now is looking the same. No one looks different. Everyone's getting the same procedure, the same Botox, getting their nose done or whatever it may be to all look the same. Where is the authenticity? I keep thinking, like, more so now, obviously not in my 20s, I didn't think this way, but I am a blend of my mother and my father and my ancestors and all the people who came before me. I am a blend of all of them. Why would I want to change my face? Why would I want to change my face? Why would I want to change my body? Like, this is heritage at the end of the day, too. It's like, do you want to take the path of, okay, everyone looks this way. Everyone wants to look like Kim Kardashian and like be perfect and whatever. She's in, I don't even know, in her 40s maybe, but she like looks fantastic and like all the things. And like the amount of money that's getting pumped into her curating that. And half of them are using Photoshop anyways. So the reality of the matter is none of that is real. Social media is fake. Even all the curated things that we're going on. Do you see Raju and I posting like our hard times when we're crying? People are not posting that. So at the end of the day, it's everything is curated and it's a fantasy. Everyone is living in a fantasy, and it's just like, where are we going to come home to? Okay, this is how I feel inside of my body. My body was rejecting the breast implants so hard that I was scarring and inflamed, and my skin started having all these issues. And then removing them, it's all gone. I don't have those scars anymore.
I just want to go back to the whole thing about like talking about being in your 20s and us doing all these procedures. What really stands out to me nowadays is that when I see a 21, 22-year old, okay, breast implants, I don't want to categorize it like it is obviously a different procedure. It's plastic surgery compared to doing fillers and Botox, which is still, you're still altering your face, but you're not going under the knife.
Mhm.
So I think that is a different, I don't want to say a different insecurity, but when I'm hearing 20 something year old, early 20-year old saying, I'm getting Botox preventatively, that absolutely blows my mind. What are you preventing? You're preventing aging. Why? Why are you so afraid at 22 to age? What is making you so scared to age at such a young age? You are a baby. What effects is that Botox and fillers going to have on you when you become 45? Right? You're 22 and you're putting these chemicals into your faces.
Completely agree with you, but I also my heart bleeds for these young girls because they have grown up in such a world and in such a time where this is normal. They are living in a standard in which they cannot achieve. So like all these women, and I've seen all these TikTok trends and all these like, how old do you think I am? They're literally 23, they're looking 33. They look very old. Teenagers now don't look like teenagers. They look like they're in their 20s. When I was a teenager and I was like 12 years old, I was awkward. I was ugly. Everyone goes through that phase. These girls don't look that way anymore. The way that they present themselves on social media, dancing to get likes and comments and to be sexy at that age, you're a child. Okay. And I know we're veering off topic. Like, I get that. But it is really important because then those girls who feel like they need that to get the validation from everyone else, to look like everyone else. Like, what a hard time is that to live in? I thought that I had a hard time growing up and I got the breast implants and all that. The messaging for the girls nowadays is even worse. So I feel for them. I understand why you would want to do those things, but it's like peel back the layers and really feel into why are you wanting the preventative Botox, the filler? Why are you wanting to change your face, to change your body, to look like everyone else? Is not attractive.
If somebody was to actually deep dive and reflect on it, it is fear. It is the fear of them aging. It is the fear of how their body looks. It is the acceptance from the outside world. And they think at the end of the day, how I thought, that I would be able to love and accept myself more if I did all these procedures to change the way I looked and how I presented myself to the world. And if I presented myself to the world where they saw me as this beautiful, big breasted, perfectly whatever woman, it would make me feel so much more confident in myself.
And this too, getting Botox, getting filler, and for us, getting implants, you are doing something in which you actually don't know the result. Your body can react whichever way it pleases. There's no guarantee that you're going to get the result that you want. I am a testament to that. There are so many women out there who have gotten explants, who have done all the things, who thought that they were going to get that feeling of acceptance and everything wholly inside of your body. So I would challenge the people who are maybe on the fence and wanting to get a surgery done to really sit down and think, okay, if I get this thing, whatever it may be, will it actually change how I feel about myself? Is there some work I could do now to heal that part of myself who thinks that I need to get X, Y, and Z done? And really reflect on your fears. I had so much fear going into my explant. And so it's fear, it's unworthiness, it's all this stuff, right? Muddled in together and like listening to everybody else. Really try to clean that up before you make that decision. And if you truly do feel like, no, this is something that I really want. And there are so many women out there who absolutely love their breast implants and they love their Botox and they love their filler. And I'm happy for you. And I think that's amazing. But just remember why you're getting it. I think remember where is it coming from? Because that is really, really important. And if you're already feeling self conscious, you're already comparing yourself to your sister or your mom or whoever it may be. And like it could even be a fictional person on your social media, and that's not even reality. I love seeing the women on social media now that says, here's my posed look, here's what reality is. And they show you their roles, they show you their body, and the softness of it all and all this plastic surgery. And it's like we're getting into this rigid feeling of what a woman is. Whereas if you go back to what it was like in the olden times, what a woman looked like, the softness. I have all these freckles on my face and I hated that. Right? It's sun damage. I'd always hated them and I wanted that flawless skin because that's like all the rage. And it was this idea like, no, this gives me character. It gives me like, this is what my face looks like. And now I can accept it and love it wholly because I feel that on the inside.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And coming back to your freckles, I've always thought they're so freaking beautiful. And I've always said to you, your skin looks absolutely amazing. And that's the thing. When we're coming from a place and doing these procedures on ourselves from such a almost like a chaos inside of us, we don't see the beauty that really is on the outside. And if we're letting other people's opinions on what beauty standards should be like, then obviously we're going to be in a dark place and we're never going to feel enough and complete. And we're going to want to always chase and get all these things done. And to be honest, even if you do it, like we said, we never felt pretty. What we never felt, until we actually worked on ourselves and knew that beauty is not from what's coming on the outside, it's from how you feel on the inside. When you feel beautiful on the inside, you feel amazing on the outside as well too.
We wanted these big boobs when we were 20. We were flaunting it. We loved it and all this kind of stuff. And then in my 30s, I was like, up. Oh my God, this is so indecent. I'm so much cleavage are showing. I do not feel comfortable having the big boobs. So not the version of me in my 20s. I was wearing low cut tops and thinking like, oh my God, look how busty I look. This is so sexy. This is so hot. I'm always grabbing my sweater and covering up because I'm like, I feel exposed and I feel indecent. And I do have a little bit of cleavage. Men just staring at your chest, and at the time I thought that that's what it was all about for the male gaze. And oh God, no, don't look there. Don't look at me.
Because I was married, I never really thought of it in that perspective of how you do. However, it's funny because you're wearing the low cut shirts in your 20s. I didn't. As soon as I got them done, I was starting to cover myself up because I never felt comfortable in them. And
Mm.
we just had a conversation earlier too about a top you had on. And I said, oh, I need to buy something that's not so low cut because I don't feel comfortable wearing that around the house with like my breasts, like showing that much. And I've never been a person to be comfortable to show my cleavage. I've always wanted to find, like, I have worn tops for parties and stuff that are a bit more lower cut, but I gravitate towards the higher neck stuff. And that makes my breast look even bigger. And I
Yes.
always see these women with big breasts and they're wearing the low cuts and it always looks so much better. However, I have never been comfortable being able to show my breasts that much, which is such a huge reminder that I wasn't meant to have these. And I will go down an explant journey as well. I'm waiting for my kids to get a little bit older before I do go down that journey. And I think it's just important, like whatever your decision is, where if you decide to get your Botox, fillers, breast implants, tummy tuck, whatever it may be, as long as it's coming from the sovereign woman within you, it's fine. But if you're coming from a place of doing it to make yourself feel better, to make yourself feel prettier, to make yourself feel worthy and enough for the exterior world, then please, 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 we're asking you guys to really sit down and don't jump and make these big decisions out of the blue and really thoughtfully make the decisions. And if you're still wanting to get it done and it's coming from that really deep, grounded place inside of you, then definitely go do it. And like we said, there's no shame to anybody. I have many friends that have had Botox and all of that done. And I, I love it on them. It looks great on them and all the power to them if that's something that they are so enjoying and love so much.
And I also just, before we wrap, I want to also say pay attention to the trends. So right now it's trendy to have small boobs. It's trendy to have the Pilates body and be bare skinned and have a slick back hair like I do right now. Pay attention to, are you actually wanting to get implants because of this reason? Because when, again, we got ours, it was very popular. but now it's like small boobs. So I had to really sit and think, am I getting this explant because it's trendy right now to have small boobs? Or is it because like that is an alignment for me? And I still have to check myself. I still have to go through the emotions to make sure that I am making the best solid choice for myself. And it's not from fear, it's not from what everyone else is doing, and really coming back to that solid, no, this is something that I need to do. So I think pay attention to trends, pay attention to like what you're gravitating towards, coming back to how you're feeling on the inside and where you're making your choices. And I really hope that this episode was illuminating to you and also makes you feel safe in knowing that Raju and I both had plastic surgery, have thought about Botox and fillers, and knowing that you're not alone. It's such an important conversation to have. Be mindful.
Thanks for tuning in to Sacredly Selfish. Stay connected with us on Instagram and TikTok at Sacredly Selfish. And if this episode spoke to you, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs the reminder that choosing yourself is sacred, not selfish.